Welcome. Okay. Thanks for joining us today. We're so happy to have you here. I'm Katie Shanahan Lintner. I'm the Executive Director here at the Center for European Studies, and I'm thrilled, all of us here, John, Kayla, and I here at the Center are thrilled to be working with Priscilla Lane and Christina Weiler on this year's Campus Weeks Fall 2020 Germany on Campus, which is generously funded by the German Embassy to the US in DC. And please visit our Campus Weeks website, where you'll get to see all of the other exciting events we have going on, including a very exciting poster contest that Christina Weiler is heading up. So lots of ways for you to get involved and come participate and watch 2 more films and come join the discussion. So we're happy to have you here today. And to kick it off, I'm going to send it over to Priscilla Lane, who is going to introduce the film and the speaker. Thank you, Priscilla.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. I'm excited to be able to screen this film for you and to hear your thoughts about the film. I'll just say a few words about the director, Ines Johnson-Spain, who will be joining us after the screening to answer questions that you might have. So Ines Johnson-Spain is an independent German Togolese filmmaker based in Berlin. She studied religion at Free University Berlin, and as a guest student, visual cultural studies and history of cinema at the Berlin University of the Arts. Johnson-Spain worked for many years as a scenic painter and for other positions of art departments of national and international film productions and theater. She teaches scenic painting at the Film University in Babelsberg, and since 2003, she's been writing and realizing her own film projects. And Becoming Black, which you're about to see, premiered in 2019 at the IDFA. So let me just get all the technical stuff ready. So the film is about 90 minutes. And as I said, in conclusion of the film, we'll hear from the director. So I'll share my screen now. Oh, wait, hold on. I forgot I have to optimize the sound. Okay. All right, so yeah, if I can ask everyone to just hi everybody, and welcome, Ines. There you are. Okay, it's great to see you. I know we had a few more people in the audience earlier, so it's possible some people had to run to a meeting or something at 1. So yeah, we're recording this conversation with you so that in the future, other people can at least watch this if they have any questions about the film. So thank you for joining us on what for you is, I guess, Tuesday evening in Berlin. And I've got a few questions for you. And in the meantime, if anybody wants to raise their hand or write a question in the chat, feel free to do so. So I see that you'd like to ask something. So Ines, first I wanted to ask you, where did the idea come from to make this film? Like, how did you decide you wanted to make this film?
Hi, Priscilla. Hi, everybody. Thank you for watching my film. And thank you for having me. Can you hear me in a good way? Yeah. Yes. Actually, I think there are 2 levels. One level is that I started to work on a film which was about my grandfather. And while working on this, I realized that there is some problems, like I couldn't really find my position in this film. And I was always asking myself, as what am I talking in this film about my grandfather, whom I never met because he died very early. I mean, he died before I was born. And so I had to find my position in this film and noticed that first, before I work on this, I have to work more about my position in this family, but also as a person who was raised in the GDR, as a Black person who was raised in the GDR. What does it mean to now suddenly have this big family in Togo and Benin? So I noticed that first I have to do some work which was related to myself. And another level of this, how it came to this film, is that it was just a need also to confront these themes and to understand a little bit more who I am with all this past, with all this history. So it was a need which wasn't so clear to me when I started the film, but became more and more clear when I was in the middle of it. And then I could also understand a little bit more what kind of, where some certain problems were coming from. So, yes.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I'm curious, what had made you decide to first make a film about your grandfather? If I understood correctly, was he the one that was very involved in politics? Not sure if I'm remembering that.
No, yeah, that's right. He was an, you could say resistance fighter against the colonial system, the French colonial system. And he was banned and in prison for many years in Dahomey, which is the former Benin. And so I was interested because when I met my family, they told me a lot about him, and there were a lot of legends and I don't know, interesting stories about this person. And of course, it was also an intuitive way to embrace my ancestry. And on the other hand, I'm also I define myself also as a political being. So on one level, so I was interested also in this fight and in this also complex personality, because on the same time he was also a businessman, and he also had a lot of relationships with other French business people. So it was a complex relationship to this colonial past.
Oh, thanks. That's really interesting. Rewatching the film, this is maybe the third time I'm seeing it. One thing that struck me was how intimate and vulnerable those conversations are with your father and your brother, that you give us a look into, what it's like to talk about these issues, so many years later. And it felt like there was a certain, discomfort, hesitance in both your father and your brother to talk about, race and what it meant then and how it might impact your relationships. Do you think, is there something particularly German about that, maybe silence around the topic? Is it East German? Have you noticed how conversations about race in Germany today are similar or different from back then?
Yes, I mean, first of all, I think it's very much a question of this generation. So in East and in West Germany, and maybe also in the US in another way, and but especially also in the East in Germany with this past of neo-fascism, fascism, and there was a lot of attempt to not talk about these themes. And in Germany, it was even more, how can I say it? in a way limited, or you could say, because the German government had this understanding of themselves that it is the first socialist anti-racist society on German ground. And but it doesn't mean that this history was worked out through. It was only that they had this law which said in the Germany fascism is forbidden and is contradictional to their self-understanding, but it doesn't mean in the daily reality that it didn't exist. So there was a bit schizophrenia, you could say, because on one hand it was officially forbidden, but on the other hand it was very present. And it's true that it's still, with this generation, it's still difficult to talk about racism. They would always say we never are racist or we never were, because they are they used this explanation of the state as an excuse to not involve or to not say that it is necessary to confront this. And it's still until now like this, but the official debate is much more present. So more and more people, institutions have to face this history and also this reality that there's still a lot of day-to-day racism in the society. And this is also for me very present, and it's a good thing.
Thank you. Let me see. I want to open it up to anyone else. If anyone in the audience has a question, I do have 2 or 3 more. But in case somebody wants to jump in, just raise your hand. Oh, let's see, Rosemary or who's speaking? Well, okay, while we wait, another question I had is
there are actually 2 persons.
Oh, are they raising their hands?
Yes.
Okay, I can't see it. Okay, just start speaking. Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties.
Sorry, Priscilla, I wasn't raising a virtual hand. I hope that didn't confuse you. I was thank you so much for sharing this film and taking the time to be with us. I'd be really curious, as not only as an artist, but also as effectively the star of the film, what it's like for you to watch it at this point. I mean, I imagine you've seen it so many times, you got to see it sort of through the production process, and I'm just curious, what is your experience? What do you take away at this point in your own viewing experience?
Yeah, interesting question. I mean, honestly, I don't see the film anymore because as you can maybe imagine, it is something which was quite challenging for me. And it took me a long time to work through all this and to come to this kind of product. But yeah, now it is that I think I did this work, and I don't really see a necessity to see it again and again, because it is also, there are still some moments which are still hurtful also for me. But the main, you could say, I don't know, result of it is that I really liberated myself from a lot of unspoken things, and also I mean, it was really an appropriating act that I did this film, that I make this film. And also, of course, just to know more about how this whole story came about, and how everybody participated. And so let me understood much more my own past, and therefore also my present. And so for me, it's now good to not see it anymore. I will, if there's a big change in whatever, I will maybe. Or let's say it's planned that I'm going at the end of October to Togo, because I haven't shown the film in Togo yet. I have shown him in Benin, but not in Togo. And so there is the Goethe Institute preparing something, and I think I will watch it there again, because there are a lot of my family coming and protagonists from the film, and so I think this will be again another experience to watch it with them. And I think the last time that I saw it was in Benin, where was also a lot of family, and there I still learn things about the film and the way how it is perceived, and in the way how the context is changing, and then I sometimes discover new things in the film.
Speaking of that, the opening and closing shots, are those taken in Benin or Togo?
They are both in Benin, near Togo, because it's really close to the border of Togo, and it looks quite the same.
So was there a second person who had a question?
I did, Priscilla, if I may. It is a real pleasure to meet you. Thank you for joining us today. After watching your film and then to have you here, I mean, of course, it'd be better to have you in person, but thank you for joining us. It's really, it's an incredible film, and I thank you for telling your story. It's really when you put it within the context of what was happening in Germany, in the GDR, and in the Bundesrepublik, you know, it's just incredible to hear your individual perspective during that time. It's really, thank you for adding this piece to our understanding of that time period. It's really, and today too. I mean, there's certainly, as you just talked about, is it certainly hasn't. It's not like it's erased, right? The discussion of racism or the topic of it, even if the discussion isn't as forefront as we'd like. In any case, I just thought it was incredible, and really appreciate this work that you've put out there for people to view.
Thank you very much.
I wanted to ask about your mother, if I may, and what it was like to make this film, you know, at a time when she, you know, of course, she's not there to answer your questions in this way, right, during this time period. And she's ever present in the film, of course. And I imagine so in your life, in various ways. And so if you don't mind, if it's okay to ask a little bit about what it was like, the discussions that you had with your mother. I mean, if, you know, how it was before you made the film, and then while you were doing it, what your thoughts were about her.
Yeah, thank you very much for talking about her, because I'm quite aware that there is also a little lack she's missing, and in a way I miss her myself.
Yeah.
Just to contextualize it again, she passed away when I was 20 years old, by an car accident. And so I never spoke with her, or we never could speak about this theme. And Of course, when I made this film and when I was speaking to my German father, adoptive father, she was present, of course. But on the other hand, one thing is, I made my piece long before I started to make the film. My piece with her. And so maybe, I mean, I hope you could feel that this film is not at all about blaming, not at all about blaming my mother or my stepfather. It's just how it is, and or how it was. And yes, and I actually tried to include my mother in a more direct way, but I somehow failed because I tried to do this, and for example, I started to write some texts, some essays, which were related to my relationship to my mother and to her, but we never found a way to include it in the film, in the editing room. And then I just accepted, okay, it's like it is. I sometimes films also have their own will or their own need, and I have to accept this. And and on the other hand, it reflects also a little bit my relationship to herself, as she's still a kind of mysterium for me, because there are so many questions and so many things I don't know, and we never had the chance to talk about that. She is a kind of complex figure which I never really could understand. But I still, as I said, I still have my own relationship to her.
I just, there was no blame at all. I didn't feel that at all. I thought it was actually quite beautiful the way that the scenes with your father, with Amin, right, as your father, are incredible and so vulnerable. And he also has clearly, the way it comes across, at least for me, is that he's also made his peace. You know, he said he made that decision all those years ago, and he knows he made the right one, that, you know, you're his daughter, and that there was no more blame, at least, you know, the way that it comes across. And I think it's really just this incredible journey that we get to watch. Your journey is how it feels to me. And that it's just about understanding as opposed to pointing fingers, and quite the contrary.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Yeah, I agree. I shared a lot of the same thoughts watching the film. I was curious, Ines, has your German father seen the film? Has he said anything about how it felt to watch it?
Yes, we had this agreement right after these talks, when we were talking for the first time about this whole subject. I have to say, I was trying to start a conversation about this with him since many years, but he wasn't ready for this. And somehow at this point he was ready. And maybe also the presence of a camera did something magical, which is sometimes happening. And so we had this agreement after this talk that he would see the film before he would come out to into the world. And I promised him that I would invite him into the editing room, and that's what we did. We had this meeting with him shortly before the picture lock, and I gave him the possibility to intervene if there's anything where he's not agreed, or where he thinks he is really fundamentally not presented in a way he could deal with. He could intervene, but he didn't. It was a very emotional moment for all of us. He came with his wife, and it was only the editor and the producer in the room, and it was quite intimate and very emotional. And he actually gave me sorry, gave me his blessings for the film. But I have to add that later on, yes, it was a tough thing for him to, just to live with this existence of this film, because he also had to confront some things which were still hidden and denied, and the film did this, and so it brought a lot of movement in his life, and so it's not only easy.
So since we're running up to the end of our time, I wanted to ask you, can you say something about the next film project you're working on? I know you'll be in LA early next year. Will you be doing any research from there? What can you tell us about it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't talk too much about this new project, but yes, it's true. I have this wonderful occasion to make some research during a residency in Villa Aurora in Los Angeles, and it's a topic which is difficult to access in archives from Germany, and easier to research in the US. So I'm looking very much forward to research. I can say that it will be shot not only, but also again in Togo and Benin, but also in the Côte d'Ivoire, in Ivory Coast, and yes, so far, and it is nothing autobiographical, because before I was actually thinking if there's a theme where I would be really interested in, which is related to my fatherly family, but I noticed I need a break from family affairs. I want to have it not so personal at the moment.
Well, yeah, thank you again so much for joining us, and for allowing us to show your film and talk with you about it. I wish you a great screening in Togo, a good trip to Togo, and when you are on this side of the Atlantic in LA, definitely get in touch, and hopefully we can maybe do something again. So
yes, would be great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Goodbye.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.